Hey guys, quick note before we jump in. You know I'm all about helping you see what your blood sugar is actually doing in real time. I've been wearing a continuous glucose monitor for over 5 years, and right now I'm using Signos. It's the first FDA-cleared, AI-driven app for weight loss and metabolic health. If you've ever wondered, is this food actually spiking me? Or why am I crashing at 2 p.m.? Signos shows you instantly. It has changed so much for me. You can save 25% off their subscriptions by using the code KAITY at checkout, KAITY. Head to the show notes for the link and their website. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. It's been a while since I've released a new podcast episode on the Glucose Glow-Up show, and I decided that it was time. I've been kind of wanting to get back into it. I can definitely tell it's been a little while. My microphone settings were a little wonky, and my daughter thinks it's her superstar, rock star singing microphone, so she was messing around with it, so I could tell that it's been a little while. But late last year, at the end of the year, I did find out that I was pregnant with baby number 2, so I stepped back from recording for a little bit. The first trimester was definitely much harder than I was expecting. I think you think the second time around you're going to avoid the nausea, the fatigue, that just overall blah feeling, but no, it was probably even worse for me the second time around just because I'm taking care of another human on top of growing one. So I was very tired, very sick. My eating habits were very poor. I will be talking probably more about what I ate during the first trimester on social media soon. But I did want to jump back on the podcast, get back in the swing of things a little bit here. I have through the rest of the summer to get through this pregnancy. I'm very excited about that, but I'm feeling a lot better. But I do want to zoom out and just kind of talk about, some of the things that I've been doing differently during this pregnancy. Some things that I've been doing the same. I just kind of want to give you a picture of the season of life that I'm in and how I'm still incorporating glucose and just tracking things overall and just how I'm approaching my health. I think we find ourselves in different seasons, and this season is very challenging for me. And so there are some things that just look different. And so I want to walk through that today, like what I'm doing differently during this pregnancy, what I've kept the same. I want to talk a little bit about some insights that I've seen in my glucose patterns, just overall, and then just kind of, give you an insight into how I'm navigating this really hard season when I also still really care about my glucose. I care about my food, stress, sleep, movement, and just how all of that shows up, in your glucose too. Some of those things. Food affects you, but, also stress. My lack of sleep certainly isn't helping. And hydration, just overall this season of life. So just want to go through that today. So let's get into today's episode. Hey there, I'm Katie, and welcome to the Glucose Glow-Up show, where I'm making blood sugar balance for non-diabetics not just important, but actually fun and approachable. I'm a girl mama, problem solver, wellness advocate, and someone who turned a deep dive into metabolic health into real-life results, like healing my insulin resistance and unlocking my fertility journey. This podcast is your backstage pass to everything I've learned, and I'm still learning about glucose, longevity, how to beat your cravings, and stop feeling hangry. Why does this all matter? Because when your blood sugar's in check, everything just feels better, from your mood to your energy and overall health. Here we'll talk about glucose tracking, eating for balance, optimizing your health, fertility, navigating the healthcare system, a holistic approach to wellness, and biohacking your way to feeling amazing for years to come. I'm in the trenches right alongside you, working daily to manage my own glucose and have more energy for the things I love. So whether you're ready to kickstart your health, deepen your understanding of how food impacts your body, or just want a relatable space to learn and grow, you're in the right place. Let's get glowing. Okay, I want to just start by saying I'm going to be focusing on the season of life I'm in right now, which is pregnancy, but this does tie into a challenging season for you when you still want to be taking care of your health, looking at your glucose, just having like an awareness of things that are going on. So I'm going to be focusing on things that I'm doing differently in this pregnancy, but I do think that you could insert your season of life into this if it's a challenging one or just how to navigate some of that. So the first one that I'm doing differently that I didn't do during my first pregnancy is I am seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist during pregnancy. I did not during my first one, I saw one after, but I did start seeing her towards the very end of my first trimester. I've been seeing her at least once a month. She's been giving me different exercises and movements and just making sure things are all on track. Um, I didn't talk about this because I didn't have this podcast during my first pregnancy, but I did have a pretty traumatic first birth experience. So I was trying to do things differently from that realm of things. So I did get a good resource or recommendation on the pelvic PT. So I've been doing that consistently and it's been really helpful and really encouraging. So I think just finding providers that will listen to you and that want to work with you and that will help you be your own advocate. She gives me ideas and things to even talk to my midwife about and things like that. So she is a trusted resource, and I think that's really important to have in any season of life. So if you can get a referral for a really good provider, that would be something that I would definitely do. Okay, another thing that I did differently, which might seem surprising, but I did have a more intentional supplement plan this time around, and I hear a lot of people they they know they want to take a supplement or they should take this or they hear that this is going to help them with this, that, and the other thing. And one thing that I would encourage people to do is like make sure your supplement plan is for you. Like you know why you're taking what you're taking. What is it doing for you? How is it helping you? Just blindly taking supplements is not really gonna do much for you. So I got my labs done just about a year before we conceived with the second one, and that's when I got kind of a new supplement plan. I mean, it didn't change a whole lot, but what did change is, I obviously added in a prenatal and then a few other things, to kind of supplement with the different nutrients within the prenatal. So I did have a very comprehensive plan going into almost a year prior to conceiving, which is so, so important if you're in that season or you're thinking about being in that season. Get your labs done at least a year before so you kind of know what's going on. You can kind of start building up nutrient stores. So, with that, one of the major things that I did differently this time was I took a very comprehensive prenatal. I'm currently taking the needed prenatal. It's 8 capsules, it's the multivitamin, and it is very comprehensive. I'm taking more things on top of that that fit with my labs and what I need for my body. I did do a social post on that, and I can link to that in the show notes if you want to see kind of like what I'm doing. Specifically, it's not medical advice, but it is kind of a snapshot into like what am I taking to try and like build up the right nutrient stores for me and that will help me and my baby. Pregnancy was what first led me to Needed, and it quickly became my go-to prenatal. I appreciate their evidence-based approach, quality ingredients, and focus on nutrients that many prenatals leave out. If you'd like to try Needed, you can use the code 20KAITY, 20KAITY, to get 20% off your first purchase or subscription at thisisneeded.com. So really, comparing to the last pregnancy, I did not take a very comprehensive prenatal. It was only 2 capsules, I think, which is not enough. Your prenatal is only 1 or 2 capsules. You're not going to be getting everything you need regardless. So I would definitely look into that. Needed has been great. I love that they're third party tested. I just feel really good about it. I'm going to keep taking that postpartum. So that would be my recommendation. Like, just know why you're taking things. Like, I know exactly why I'm taking all the different supplements I'm taking. I mean, lots of different things if you would look at that post, but get your labs done and have an intentional supplement plan. Okay, so the next one is maybe a little less rigid with food and tracking. First trimester, I was not tracking anything. I mean, I was just trying to survive, right? So there are just some times where it's like, I know that things aren't really perfect right now, and there's really no need for me to like get all in the weeds with the numbers because basically, I know they're probably not great. Like when you're just eating pizza and Caesar salad and strawberries and yogurt and more pizza and Caesar salad. I mean, like you're just gonna kind of let it be what it is. You're taking care of another human. You're getting less sleep. You're running a business. There isn't a need to add an additional level of stress. So I feel like I've gone in and out of tracking and then also just giving myself grace. And kind of going along with that, I've definitely leaned into convenience foods. Am I making as many snacks myself at home from scratch as I did previously? No, I am not. I we got a Costco membership in January. We just started with that. And do I occasionally make things? Yes, but I also lean into the pre-cooked grilled chicken or the shredded pork and then kind of like make my meals based on something that's already done. Now, could you call that processed? Yes, I mean, because there was a process to make that, right? That doesn't mean they're all terrible, but like I think you need to be resourceful and just if that is how you're going to get in more nutrients versus like going out to eat and getting some like, you know, actual fast food, I think there's a difference. There's a difference between McDonald's fast food and getting like what I call fast food from Target or Costco, like their pre-made chicken that you like add into a meal. Because for me, like taking the time to cook meat or cooking full meals right now is just it's just not an option. And so I need to, kind of look at it in the lens of this is just a season. Is it a little bit more expensive sometimes? Maybe, but I would rather have that chicken from Costco in my refrigerator so that I can do whatever I want with it. So I'm getting my protein in, I'm just like looking at it very differently. So convenience is winning right now, and that's totally fine with me. So during my first pregnancy, compared to this one, hydration looks a little different. I obviously knew that hydrating and drinking water was important. I was definitely team element during my first pregnancy. Now, I will say I did sort of have this, like, I'm going to say the word craving, but I don't know if that's how I would describe it. I just felt like that's what my body wanted. I don't know, that like raspberry and citrus flavor. Again, I've done a podcast where I don't agree or love the lack of transparency with Element, so it is not my like primary recommendation for an electrolyte drink packet. But Element was my primary one during my first pregnancy and during breastfeeding. And this time around, I had it a little bit early on in the first trimester because I was really struggling with nausea and was not getting enough water. And that is what helped me get enough water in. So I did what I had to do. So here's kind of my take on that, if you will. If there, if I need to be hydrated and the only thing available is like a Gatorade that has dye in it or element that has a little bit more maltodextrin than maybe I would like to see, I am going to pick those options over not hydrating at all. So that's sort of, I'm not going to be like, never, ever, ever drink this. I mean, like, because that's so unrealistic. And when I'm being honest, like, if that's what I needed, that's what my body needed. And I just needed to hydrate, and that's how I needed to get it done. So, again, if the only option was a Gatorade too, that has dyes and artificial flavors and all the things, right? Like they're not great. We all know that. But if that is the only thing available, you just need to do what you need to do. But this time I am kind of looking at, alternatives. I drink a lot of coconut water, Get that at Costco as well, or Pick and Save is a really good organic coconut water. Aldi does as well. So drinking that, I have a few different alternatives. Like I have a homemade electrolyte drink that I make with the coconut water, lemons and limes. I also have a homemade element style drink that I make. I have a blog with that recipe, so I can include that in the show notes as well. So just kind of using different things for hydration. As far as like packets, I've been using the Just Ingredients electrolyte packets and also the Needed, the same prenatal brand. I use the Needed Hydration Support as well. Those have a really good balance of the magnesium, potassium, and sodium. If you're kind of looking for like an on the go, like I've had that too. We've been doing a lot of camping and things like that. The Body Armor drinks, those are kind of like coconut water based. I do like that as well. So if I need something like on the go or I'm in a pinch, those are something that I lean towards. So during my first one, like I said, I leaned more towards element overall, and now over the years, I've kind of just learned other ways to get hydration in. So those are some things that I'm doing a little differently. And staying hydrated is, important for pregnancy, but it's important for regulating your glucose and just how you feel overall. Sometimes people say, "Oh, you're probably not hungry. You probably just need to drink something." That can be the case. And then it does affect your glucose in some ways, right? Like your body needs the hydration and needs the electrolytes. So that's kind of what I'm doing differently there. As far as workouts and training, so I'm still doing CrossFit like I was before during my last pregnancy. This time I would say I modified things earlier and more intentionally. I've just been very intentional about warm-ups and what movements I do and do not want to do. I would say even at the end of the first trimester, there were some things that I was like, I don't think that's for me anymore during this pregnancy, and I had to be okay with that. I do know that exercise and strength training during pregnancy and any season of your life definitely helps. It's going to help me with recovery. It's going to help me stay healthy, help baby be healthy. There are a lot of there's a lot of research out there to show that obviously strength training is still important, but it's just like when you're in a different season, you need to look at movement differently. So again, walking is so good for everyone. I'm trying to incorporate walking more on the days that I'm not doing CrossFit. I'm doing less intense workouts. Like I'm not doing like CrossFit 6 days a week. I'm trying for 3 to 4 days, then getting walking in, and then other movements that I've been given by my PT and doula and things like that. So I'm just sort of adapting as I go and just like doing what feels best for me. Okay, this one stressed me out a little bit, but I feel like sometimes when I talk about kind of my journey, I probably sound anti-Western medicine, which in some cases I feel like I'm just very cautious about it. I don't want to say that I do believe there is a place for Western medicine, and I don't believe that it should be eliminated by any means. I do just feel like sometimes there's a better way to do something. Now, this was tough for me because I am taking a baby aspirin during this pregnancy, and taking a medication like that versus trying to find an alternative with a supplement is it's hard for me. I really struggled with this decision, and some friends, if they're listening to this, probably know this. I did probably too much research on it, but for me, like doing the research makes me feel better. There have been a ton of studies. I reviewed them and, kind of looked at my history and the data and what my midwife was recommending and my doula, and I just sort of like looked at everything. And based on that and based on my history, I knew that I needed to take a low dose baby aspirin. Again, really a struggle for me, but I was looking at you know, the effects of not taking it and the consequence of not trying to see if it would work would be worse than the outcome of me taking one every day. The studies were pretty clear that there wasn't a ton of adverse effects. So I had to trust Western medicine. I had to trust the studies, trust my providers. I have a provider that I really trust and like. And so there is a place for needing help, and there doesn't always have to be some crunchy mom way of doing things. Like I definitely have to let go of the reins a little bit. And I'm just want to share with you that like I have to make those decisions too. I have to make a decision where is what Western medicine telling me, is that what I need to do? And that's hard, but I think there's a place for working with my naturopath, doing my own thing and what I know feels best for me, and also trusting the data and my providers. Like, you need to trust your provider. Now, going along with the baby aspirin, I did some other research. Again, this is unique to me, but the reason for the baby aspirin was for high blood pressure and preeclampsia. Now, looking back at my labs and some of my history and that supplement plan I talked about earlier on, there's some things that I wish I would have taken during my first pregnancy that I feel like could have helped me with my blood pressure issue that I had at the very end of this pregnancy that ultimately led to more complications afterwards. And so I definitely put some thought into that as well, that this additional supplement that I'm taking also could be a component. There are studies that show the supplement that I'm taking, the additional B complex, personally for me could be a right decision. But I ultimately made the decision to do both, and my midwife knows that, and everyone's happy. So as long as you have a team of people around you that you trust and you can like be open about that with, I think that is really important when it comes to like navigating the healthcare system. That kind of goes into my next one that I did differently is I have a midwife this time instead of an OB. I made that decision because I transferred to an OB at the end of my last pregnancy, um, the day before my due date. Actually, that's a whole story. And it ended up being the best decision for me. I had such better care, even in the 6 days that I was in the hospital with my first. And I just was like, wow, that if I do this again, I think a midwife would be the right choice for me. I have really lengthy appointments. I feel like I get to take my time. I feel heard. I feel supported. I've had some issues with anxiety, and my midwife is really understanding, and she's tried to figure out how she can help me when I have to go to appointments where she's not there, right? Like I have different testing and things like that, and she is not a part of those. But she has really gone to bat for me and talked to other providers and messaged with them to let them know like my history and what, she thinks of different situations that have happened during this, pregnancy. And I just know that I can share with her. I can share anything with her and just I feel comfortable and just really well taken care of. So that's been a really good move for me. Part of it was just trial and error, finding the right provider. But that would be one thing again, like just in any season, it is okay. I learned this during my first pregnancy. It's okay to be like, you're not the one for me. Like, we are not compatible. Unfortunately, it took me, 39 weeks and 6 days or something like that to make that decision the first time around. But you live and learn and you kind of figure out who's going to be compatible with you. And it's just like, okay, I have to drive 30 plus minutes to see this person. That's what I'm going to do. So I think you have to figure out what's important to you. And I've, done a few social posts on this as well, but you just have to work at it a little bit to find someone that you trust. Okay, what else is different? Stress. Stress load is a little bit higher. I mean, it was even high last time, but I feel like it's higher now. I'm self-employed fully. I don't work for someone like I did last time. There was always like a combination, but this time I'm like fully self-employed, so obviously it gives me a lot of flexibility, but running a business also means a lot of more mental load, stress, and it definitely shows up sometimes. So, if I have to work late, maybe my sleep is wonky and I miss that morning workout, things like that. There's just things that are really out of my control when it comes to that because I just run a business part-time. So it's really hard to kind of show up in all those places. So I would say stress is a little bit more of a factor. Definitely trying to work on that. Community and village. I would say this is a huge shift in this pregnancy, and I think that it affects our overall health. I think it affects our mood, our sleep, our just overall health. It affects our glucose, stress, all of that. Like having a community of people. Over the last 4 years, I've just really built a village. My daughter has really brought a lot of great people into my life. And this pregnancy, I've definitely leaned into that more support, asking for help, just feeling really connected, and not feeling like I have to push through everything by myself. And so that shift really helps with stress and recovery. And stress for me raises my glucose and insulin, right? So just leaning into support and having community is also like it's kind of wild, but it's important for your glucose, honestly, in any season of life. So I would definitely encourage you to find your people. And then of course I'm still using a CGM. I use my glucometer to just do some spot checks once in a while. I'm tracking my blood pressure. So I am still using all of the tools that I used the last time, just to kind of check in on things. I started using the CGM. I took a break, like I said, during the first trimester, but I have been using it pretty much consistently since. I might not have one on for a week or something, and I take a break, but definitely been using that consistently. And then the glucometer just helps me like spot check things when sometimes the numbers seem wonky on there. Or for like my fasting glucose, I kind of like to see that once in a while. I've definitely been keeping up with that, and the blood pressure that is something my provider wants me to like keep track of too. So it's not a complete like extra thing. It is something that like I wanted to check at home because I do struggle with, like I've said in the past, higher readings at the doctor appointments, and then my blood pressure when I get home is just fine. So anyways, those are just some things that I'm still tracking. It doesn't look a whole lot different, but what I'm doing the same. I'm still using a CGM, still spot checking glucose, just with my fasting glucose and things like that. Or if the CGM seems really wonky, each one seems to be a little different. Again, still prioritizing movement and strength training. Like I said earlier, the different part is it's just modified a little bit more. Also, still did the preconception labs. I was taking, supplements based on those labs last time, but not quite as comprehensive just because again, like I would have asked more questions the first time around, but I still did the lab work like I did last time. Like I said, I'm still tracking blood pressure at home, still recognizing patterns with sleep, stress, carbs, hydration. I did want to talk about a few things that I've just noticed. It does seem occasionally I've noticed, the later I've gotten into pregnancy that my glucose definitely takes a little bit longer to come back down. Just after higher carb meals, I seem to be a little bit more insulin resistant, which happens in pregnancy. That's not new news. It's just a matter of can your body still return to baseline? And is sleep and stress showing up, maybe a little bit more in some of that, perhaps. I don't know. But I have noticed that occasionally there are just some times where it just takes a little bit longer. But overall, my fasting glucose has stayed pretty steady, somewhere between 79 and 82 milligrams per deciliter. So nothing really feels wrong, but like I said, like I track to just see the history. Like if this would have been going on my whole pregnancy, then maybe, something would be up there. I have not taken the glucose tolerance test yet at the time of recording this episode, so I'll be providing more feedback on that, but that would test for gestational diabetes. I do think you need to care about your glucose before that test. So that's why I do all these things because I like to have the history. And if something would come up, my midwife actually knows that I wear a CGM, and she has kind of joked that like I track more than she asks me to. Like I think I'm a little different than maybe some of her other patients, which is fine. I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for her. So I think just for me, I want to see the patterns with my glucose and my blood pressure. All these metabolic health markers are just really important, not only in pregnancy, but just kind of overall. Okay, so just kind of closing this up, what this pregnancy has really reinforced for me is something I've been building this entire platform around. Your body is always responding to like all the different inputs, right? Not just food, not just tracking your macros, but it's like the sleep, stress, hydration, movement. your support system and just kind of overall life in the season. And right now, I'm just in this very specific season, right? I'm in a season of pregnancy, parenting a toddler, running a business, navigating my own health, right? Like I'm helping you guys and I'm trying to show you kind of what I'm doing, tracking my glucose right now, but it isn't like, wow, it's got to be perfect. It's really an awareness. I can't control every situation and every outcome in this season or any season, really. And you can't either. We can't control it all as much as I would love to personally. I can't, and I've had to let go of that. But the CGM is helping me understand patterns, spot checking, like I said, and just having awareness, paying attention to things, noticing how my body is responding, and just also navigating the healthcare system differently than I did before. I know a lot of you are also navigating the healthcare system, and it isn't fun. Like I said, finding providers that you trust is really important. Every season isn't about optimizing everything. It's just staying connected to what's happening in your body, still living your life, right? I don't want you to think like we're controlling everything, it has to be perfect, just literally awareness. So I hope like something I said today resonated with you. I just wanted to give a quick pregnancy update and just share things that I was doing differently this time around, things I've learned. I think I'm in a different headspace with the second one. There's been a significant amount of time since my first one, so I've learned a lot, and I'm just really excited to be in this season and just to keep sharing all of this with you. So if something helped you today or you think it might help someone else, share it with them. But until next time, keep on glowing.